Hello and welcome back to our third instalment of TLDR, where it's much of the same, us ambitiously trying to squash marketing wisdom into 15 minutes, and you finally having a legitimate reason to ignore your colleagues. You're welcome.
And if you fancy ignoring them for even longer, here are the links to part 1 and part 2 of our series in which we broke down ABM, except it wasn't really we because I wasn't there.
Yes, I'm afraid this webinar we have had to trade in our beardy host Gary and replace him with a slightly less beardy Graham, our head of sales.
Hi everyone.
So our topic today is...
content marketing.
And how much do you know about content marketing, Graham?
Oh, pretty close to nothing.
Which makes you a pretty good candidate for a whistle-stop tour of the field.
That I am, but I get the impression that content marketing is one of those things that people think they know a lot about, but because it's been around for so long, but actually might not be putting into practice all that effectively.
Definitely. You get all those content is king articles going around, flooding your LinkedIn, and you think surely by now people have got it. But ultimately, there's a reason they keep going around.
People still need pointers.
So before the show, we gave Graham 5 minutes to learn as much about what content marketing is as possible. And now I'm going to dump him entirely on the spot and see what he can remember. Ready, Graham?
No.
Go.
Okay, it all started with Benjamin Franklin in whenever he was around, because he decided to start publishing some poor Richard guide to promote his printing business.
I actually didn't know that.
It's not just articles on a page or a screen anymore, it's pictures on Instagram, it's VR, it's webinars, it's BuzzFeed doing their recipe videos that you don't even realise are ads.
Okay, so that's pretty much the key there.
That you don't realise they're ads?
Exactly. I'm going to pull a bad wedding speech trick now and provide the dictionary definition of content marketing. So the Oxford Living Dictionary says, and I am botching this a little, that it's a type of marketing that involves the creation and sharing of online material that does not explicitly promote a brand, but is intended to stimulate interest in its products or services.
To skip the jargon, it's companies making stuff you actually want to see or read without ramming their brand down your throat, right?
Bingo.
So, I know that content's a big thing, and I do get why people like it, but why has it been so big for so long? Why aren't people as excited about display ads or social media anymore, while content has been hanging around since the founding fathers?
Well, I think we can probably peg it on our usual suspect, and that's the internet. Supposedly, people today have shorter attention spans than goldfish.
About 8 seconds, right?
To a goldfish is 9, yeah. But people also don't like their internet experience being disrupted. They don't want anything messing with that little serotonin hit they get every time the internet rewards them for their attention.
Which is why display has seen a bit of a decline. I think stats show that display ads get about 1.6 seconds of our attention on average now.
Absolutely. And that's because they're innately disruptive. They interrupt whatever we were looking at, be that in a video or on our news stream or feed. They slow down loading times. They use up our data. So what do people do?
Block them. They use ad blockers. But what about social? Surely if people are following a brand, then they want to see what they're up to.
In theory, yeah. The problem is that social advertising rarely ends up being as social as it sounds. You followed a soft drinks company in 2010 because they were running a competition.
And 7 years later, they're popping up in between pictures of your friends' new babies or updates from your mum. You might have cared once, but now they're just interrupting. So they're not doing much better than display.
No. But while you mentioned earlier that display gets readers to pay attention for all of just over a second, how much time do you reckon people commit to content marketing on average?
I don't know, a minute?
9.
9 minutes? That's not bad, actually. In the land of the goldfish, the 9-minute ad is king.
Sure, why not?
Not that it's not notable to think of your audience. When you're running a marketing campaign, take what they want and need into account. But from a sales perspective, I'm wondering what's in it for the client. There's got to be more than just a promise of 9 minutes of some internet person's undivided attention.
That's a valid point. And in all fairness, something we creatives can lose sight of a bit sometimes. So there should really be 3 objectives attached to any successful content campaign. The first one we've sort of already covered.
Engagement?
Yep. Content gets people interested, so they seek it out, driving up engagement and traffic.
And thinking from the money side of things, a display budget's going to be finite. You pay for it, it's out there, it's done.
Whereas a good content library has a compounding return. More assets equals more traffic, equals more value from those assets.
Plus law of averages, the more people being exposed positively to your brand, the greater chance one of them will turn into a customer.
Exactly. Which brings us quite nicely to our second objective, which is to establish yourself as an expert. This works really well for companies with a slightly drier offering, where you might struggle to rely on comedy or great photography. If people know they can look to you when they've got a problem or need guidance, when they know that you've got the answers,
they're going to want to spend their money with you.
Right. And if you've already proven yourself worthy of their time, it's not so big a leap to prove yourself worthy of their custom.
And the third objective?
To build relationships.
So the first two lay the groundwork, and this one's the cherry on top?
Not just Gary who likes mixed metaphors then. But you've got the essence of it. You've got people to stop and take notice of you. You've established yourself as the brand in the know. Now's the time to build on that.
We talk about relationship building in sales a lot. I'm guessing that crossover is no mistake?
Not at all, no. You're a provider at the end of the day. The main thing is that the provider-customer relationships aren't all that different from how people interact in their personal lives. People just want to feel valued. That's what gets them to commit.
But I'm assuming they don't want companies to take them out to dinner or buy them flowers?
I don't know, everyone loves a free meal. But assuming that's a little much, content can play a very real part in offering value to customers. The point is not to dump your assets and then wander off. This needs to be an ongoing commitment. Continually generating content that actively responds to market changes or addresses reader queries shows you're listening. And isn't that the golden rule in every relationship?
So people tell me.
By listening, responding, and catering to their needs, you turn your audience into a following. And that's what gets you repeat business, recommendations, and a brilliant brand rep.
Which all sounds great, but are we going to go through how to do it? Because I reckon that's where a lot of people come a bit unstuck.
Yep. Using our content marketing guide, which you can download from our resource list, we're going to go through it together. So pop your Gary hat on.
I'll do my best. So we've broken the how of all this down into 5 steps.
First up, you need to define your goals.
And that's not what we just did?
Well, we established overarching campaign objectives, but to ensure your campaign is effective, you need to drill down further. What do you want each piece of content to do for you?
Okay, if you're just trying to drive traffic or boost engagement, then you're going to want something a bit more top of the funnel, right? Something that appeals to a wide audience so it can't be too niche. That solves a host of problems rather than zeroing in on one.
And if you're looking to generate direct sales, then obviously you want to flip that, so you'll be tailoring content more specifically to your product and the people who need it.
But you wouldn't go in with that as the first step?
No, that's going to take some serious relationship building before you pop that question.
You mentioned on the ABM webinar that knowing your goals is essential to evaluating your success at the end and then preparing yourself for the next go on the rodeo. I can imagine that's the same here?
Absolutely.
Then for step 2, you want to research your audience. I know you get a bit, shall we say, aggravated when we send over white papers that don't tally up with the intended audience.
I do. I actually really do. But that's only because it's going to directly impact the value of your content marketing campaign. Like we talked about earlier, you have to consider your audience's needs as they move through the sales funnel. There's no point dropping spec sheets on first-time viewers or hitting CEOs who are completely bereft of free time with 30-page technical white papers.
No, I do get it. There's rarely a one-size-fits-all approach that works with content. You've got to think about everything from tone to topic, even the format you're putting your content out in.
Now, step 3 relies on you being a bit cutthroat and doing an audit of your own content.
No room for sentimentality. You've got to be prepared to ditch content that isn't working, even if it was a labour of love that took you 13 days and the soul of your firstborn child to create.
It might even be worth getting a third party in. Someone who's really not going to mind tearing your content apart, so you can only keep the stuff that's working.
Check out your competitors' libraries too.
Yep, be a shameless content spy.
What have they got? Is your stuff up to par?
So step 4 is when you coordinate content plans.
Game time.
You've got everything you need to get started, in theory.
This is where you work out the mechanics.
Be realistic going into this. Everyone would like to create a snazzy new content library from scratch, but if you haven't got the time or the budget, then your strategy isn't much use to you.
This is where you decide if you're going in-house or outsourcing. Do you need a specialist? Do you need specialist software or CRM solutions? Is implementing that going to be set the time frame back by a week, a month? We've done the creative stuff. This is the brass tacks of content marketing.
Then last but not least, we're going full circle, back to the beginning.
Stage 5, specify performance matrix.
You know what your goal is, right? You know what you're looking out for to indicate success. Now you need to measure that.
If it all went well, then congrats. Keep on keeping on. If not, now's the time to set up a contingency plan and put it into play, adapting any future campaigns to the lessons you've learned with this one.
So that's it, right? Everyone's ready to go off and start their new content marketing campaigns.
Right.
Wrong. And you were doing so well. Because what's missing from all of this? Content.
That sounds like a teaser. How badly have you wanted Gary to be off so you could get to do the hook?
Don't know what you're talking about. But if you do want to get down to the bare bones, the deep dive, some other marketing lingo for the basics of creating content, then come back next time for episode 4 of TLDR, where we'll be walking through the process of creating your magical content library.
This is like the ending of a Grey's Anatomy episode, but less emotional.
So in time-honoured fashion...
3 episodes?
Time-honoured fashion. Graham, do you want to take on the TLDR challenge and wrap this webinar up for us?
Go on, let's give it a go. Content marketing. Big thing for the founding fathers. It's a subtle but effective way to engage short, internet-addled attention spans and defines you as a font of knowledge who values their customers. However, to get it right, you need a tactical approach driven by foundational goals, a close attention to analysis, and an acceptance of constant evolution.
And you've been listening to TLDR. Big thanks to Graham for being our resident beard this episode, and thanks to you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and don't forget you can download the eMedia Content Marketing Guide from the link on your screen.
And keep an eye on your inbox for news of episode 4.